Hello. This week, I've gathered some bits of you may have seen me sorting it, offcuts from sprues. And I've just basically, shaped these, given them a little bit of sanding to make them nice and smooth. They're not exact. They don't need to be because they're obviously going to form the bottom of hedges. And that's what I'm going to be returning to today, because I've been thinking about, trying to do something a little bit different with bocage. Now, what I want to try and do is I want to try and introduce some seafoam. Now, anybody that's been modelling for a while is going to know that seafoam's pretty fragile. So I'm going to look at some ideas that I've been thinking about. I've not tested it to see if I can incorporate it and at least make it reasonable, to handle. But to give it a more realistic bocage feel, because the more you look at it, the photos of bocage, it's not just bushes, it's bits of trees growing through it and all sorts. Now, I know we can't do it full justice because it'd be taking up too much room on the game table. Because, you could drive carts between it, couldn't you? And you'd got like the hill of soil. But we want to give a suggestion of that. And I just think if I could get a few bits of seafoam into that action as well, it'd probably make it look a little bit more realistic. And, if we can look at hardening it a little bit, we can play off the fragile against, the benefit we're getting of the look of it. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So the first thing I'm going to be doing, as I always do, is I'm going to put some foam onto these as, the basic hill that I'm going to build onto. So what I'm going to be doing is cutting some lengths, roughly shaping them into, like a curved hill. And once that's done, obviously we can look at building it up afterwards. But that's the initial stage, because we've got to get it carved, cut and glued on, ready for when we start. So all I'm doing here is just basically cutting some of this foam that is left over on my workshop. Sorry about the squeaky sound. And that's essentially the length. I'm not too worried that it's slightly over because we're going to be shaping it anyway. Now, the other thing is, of course, I need to keep it fairly narrow because we want to be able to build onto it. So I'm just going to take one measurement and make that the same for them all. So I'm going to go there. Now, I'm not, as you can see, I'm not going to worry about perfect straight lines here. I don't think I need to, because I'm going to be shaping it. So that's like one. But the thing is, what I'm going to do is probably get two out of each one. See if I can get, yes I can get a bit more out of that. A bit wide on that one I think, but we can carve it down. You don't have to use this stuff, I'm using this because, as you know, I've got plenty of it. You could use blue foam. You could use polystyrene because you're going to be toughening it up anyway. You could even build it up with the, what's it called, paper mache stuff if you wanted to. But I do find this is a lot easier to work with. And then what I'm doing, look, is cutting down the middle of it. I think with this one I'm probably only going to get one out because I went too thin on it. But I've got plenty here, so just peeling off this silver look. Right, all I'm going to do is just roughly trim it to a slope. I don't particularly want it to be universal, so I don't mind my knife moving while I'm doing it, because I want it to look irregular. So basically, it's going to look something like that, and then when I glue it on I can just trim it to how I want it. But I do want it to, you know, so it can butt up to each other, but it doesn't have to be perfect to the end of the wood because you're going to be bushing this up as well, so that will make the join. So let me get these cut and then I'll bring you back. Right, so I'm leaving all them to dry at the moment, and I've got my seafoam out. Now, basically, I don't really want huge bits like that, obviously, because it's just going to be out of size and it's too vulnerable. What I'm looking for is bits that would make a very small tree, a young tree really, something that's not going to stand too proud of the rest of it. So maybe something along, if I just trim it back down to here and then take the lower branches off. There's a couple of seed pods there, let's take them out. I think that bit would work. So something along those lines, you know, like a very young tree, you know, maybe some even smaller. But at the minute, I think that one's workable. Because we want it to stand proud of the rest of it, but only just. So what I'm going to do is the bits that I select, you know, some of these offcuts that I've got left, I'm just going to stick them in that, and I'm going to make a few rows of these, and when I've got all those done, what I'm going to do to start with is I'm going to give them a quick blast of matte varnish and then just let them dry, and then probably another coat, and see if that, you know, stiffens it up a bit. I think it'll work to a certain degree. If that doesn't, then I might go with some I've got some spray glue that's a mist type one, and I might give that a coat as well. It doesn't, you know, I don't need to go mad to make it perfect, you know, make it really hard, but I just want something so it can take a bit more play than that perhaps would. Right, let me get a load of them done and then I'll bring you back and show you what I mean. Right, so I've picked out 20 trees because I might not put it on all of them, but just a few of them, or even one each, something like that. Now, unfortunately, it's been raining here for days, so I'm going to have to do something I wouldn't normally do, and that's spray a little bit in here, but I am spraying small amounts, so, and I've got the door open for ventilation, but the weather's just not good for spraying outside. Right, so I'm going to give these a quick spray, and then I'll let them dry, and then, you know, if it needs it again, I'll give it another coat. So I'll give the can a good shake. And then all I'm doing is just turn them around. And that's it, really. Slowly but surely. Right, I'll get the rest of these done, and if they need another coat, I'll give them another coat, and then I'll bring them back and let you, you know, see the difference. I mean, if you quickly look at this one, I mean, they're fairly flexible, but they would break quite easily. So I want to toughen them up a little bit. I mean, I'm going to give them, you know, stuff around them to support them. But it's just something I wanted to try because I'd like it to be, you know, a little bit more realistic on some of the maps. Right, so put the next one in the booth. I'll do. Right, I'll get the rest of these done then, and then I'll bring you back. Right, once the varnish had dried, I gave these a little blast with some dark brown. Nothing too heavy. It's going to help with the colouring, but it's also going to be, you know, another layer to stiffen it up. I mean, they're already a lot tougher than they were. I don't know whether you can even see. Obviously they're fragile, they always will be because of the nature of them, but they will stand up to a bit more, and this is obviously without even got the leaves or anything on it. And what I'm going to be using now is some hairspray, extra strong hold it says, so let's see. And I'm just going to give them a blast with that, and then we'll put some leaves on. And I've got 3 tones of leaves. I've got a dark leaf, a mid leaf and a light leaf. So I'm going to sprinkle those on, but I'm going to be a bit sparing with it. But I'll show you that in a minute. And then maybe at the end, when it's dried, we'll give it another matte varnish. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with a bit of the dark. Now I'm not going to go mad with this, I'm going to be a bit sparing. I don't want anything that's going to, you know, kind of leave it too top heavy. I mean, essentially what we're looking for is, you know, like a spindly young tree that's growing out among the bush. Let's have a bit of mid-green from the top. Just give that a quick spray again. And again. A little bit of light. Right, and that's what that's looking like now. I'll try and Let's pan back a bit and give you a bit of light on it. Can you see that? Nothing too crazy. They're only meant to be young, spindly trees. Right, I'm going to let them dry and move on to the next batch. Right, so let me just press on and get the rest of these done, and then when they're all dry I'll bring you back. So the bases have dried now, and basically what I'm going to do is I've mixed up some Mod Podge with an earth brown colour, and I'm just going to paint this all over it. I'll do these one at a time because then you can see the different processes that I'm going to do. It's just, I'm experimenting really with a different technique that I thought about doing to get a more realistic finish. But it's whether, you know, just got to make sure it's going to be strong enough to game with. Right. Right, now why that's wet, I want to put some of the grounding weeds and stones and things like that on it. Let me see if I can zip in a bit so you can see a bit more closely what I'm doing. I'll do my best to try and keep that centered. Right, so what I'm going to do, I'm not putting on great amounts at the moment, is put on some dark, because this can stick in the glue. You'll see that I'm focusing mainly on the sides, because obviously the main bushes and everything I've still got to put in place. Alright, I'm going to put a little bit of mid-green in. I might even put just a tiny bit of light green. Right, now the other thing that I wanted to do was put a few stones in it. Again, I'm keeping the top clear. Right. Now the final bit is, I've got my soil mix. Now basically all that is like a mixture of dried soil from the garden, and it's also got some tile grout mixed in with it, so it'll actually harden up, but it'll have a soil type finish. And I'm going to blend that over the top of all of this. Not going to go on too thick. Shake off the excess. So it's just looking like that at the moment. Doesn't look much at the moment, obviously. It looks a bit weird because we've not got the main bushes and everything on there. And I will be adding more, but I just wanted to build it up in a layer because I wanted it to look like how the bocages form, where they push the soil to the edge of the field, and everything that gets pushed with it, weeds, brambles, everything all gets mixed into it, and then it just overgrows. So that's the look I'm going to try and create. Right, so I'll get a tray out. And I'll put that one down. Right, what I'll do is I'll crack on and get the rest to the same stage, and then I'll bring you back for the next part. The next bit that I'm doing to prepare for it is I've cut strips of this horsehair, but whereas before I've just used it like that, I'm actually teasing this one apart because I'm going to be looking to put it on in irregular areas and to, you know, create a bit more of a natural look. So I want to thin this out because I want it in wispy in some places. Obviously when I come across, you know, these black bits that you get on it, sometimes I'm just pulling them out, or anything a bit too thick. So once I've got it like that, I'll just leave it for now until I come to use it. Good thing about this is, doing this, you can use some of the offcuts. That's it again. It gets rid of all the straight edges and things. Starts to make it look more like a natural product. It's a bit how you'd separate it out when you're using it on the trees, really. Right, I'll carry on doing that, and I'll bring you back at the next stage. Right, so having teased all that out, what I'm doing now is pulling it apart into different sized pieces each time, and rolling it around and rolling it out, and then opening it up a tiny bit, So you end up with like an individual little shrub like that. And obviously what I'm going to be doing with these is sticking them in place when the straights are dried, but clubbing them together in different sizes to make it look more organic than the normal type that I've done. So I want different sizes of these. And there's another one done. Might do some a little bit thinner than others. I'm trying to make sure at the same time I can get them so they will naturally stick flat down onto the surface. Because obviously once I've done these, I don't want them springing back open. I mean, obviously what I will do when I've got enough of these is I'm going to give them a quick blast of brown paint. I won't go mad, just enough really to give it a bit more branch looking material inside them, and that together with the glue that we'll apply at the end is going to help keep these in the shape that I'm trying to make them. Right, I'm going to carry on doing that, and when I've got them all done I'll give them a quick blast of brown and then I'll bring you back. Right, so these have dried now. Yeah, still a little bit damp here and there, but it doesn't matter. And what I've done now is I've cut a little template out of some cardboard that I can just put on the top like that. And the idea being I'm going to spray it with this fast tack so I can start putting the bushes on, but I don't want it to go everywhere, so there we go. And then if you remember the brown bushes, the rolled up horsehair, I'm now going to start sticking that where I want it. That's going on like, let me move that, like that. But obviously what I want to do is introduce these trees as well. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a little hole through here. Let's put in one of the trees now. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit of the basing glue into that hole. Right, I'll start with this one. So that's what it's looking like. Let's put a bit of light on that for you. I think that looks a lot more effective as bocage. You know, I could do even more and have another tree, but I think if I do that, it'll probably be overkill. I think it's just nice enough to have a suggestion of it. Obviously, you know, I've got to trim little bits of this that I don't want, and then we can look at putting some flock and things on it. But for now, I'm just going to let it dry. So that's like the first one. Tin a shake again. Good thing about this is the tacky stuff is going to hold it in place, but then obviously I can soak it again when it comes to putting on the flock onto the bush itself, but this will hold it in place in the meanwhile. Obviously what I don't want to do now is place the tree in the same place every time, because that would look a bit weird. Right, I have the tree here. Obviously the beauty of this is the tree is going to be within all the bushing area as well, so that's going to give it a bit more stability. As I've said, you know, it's never not going to be fragile, but we can at least protect it from a little bit of it being knocked around. So that's looking like that. Right, let me get a few more of these done and then I'll bring you back. Right, I'm not going to wait for these to dry now that they're done. I'm going to quickly blast them with some of the hairspray, and then I'm going to use some of these scatters. I've got a light green, a mid green and a dark green. So let's just give it a spray. And I'm going to start with the dark green. I don't want to get too wild because I don't want it to go everywhere. Just want it on the bushes. And I'm focusing mainly around the sides and underneath. Now I'm going to introduce some mid-green, and I'm going to aim for this to be mixed in and also round towards the top as well. Don't need to really get it on the trees. Right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a very light sprinkle of the lighter stuff on the top. Make sure you dress it from both sides though, otherwise it's going to look good one side and bad the other. Right, so that's what that's looking like now. And at that, I'm just going to leave it now, and then I can check it afterwards and see if there's anything I want to add a bit more to. I might even trim some of the straggly bits of bush off as well. But essentially, that's what I'm looking for it to look like. Right, next one. Again, start with a dark green. Right, now the mid-green. Right, a little sprinkle of the light stuff on the top. It's not going to matter if you've got some bare branches, because you want it to look like that. You want some live stuff and some dead stuff in there. Makes a good realistic mix. If you look at there, you can see this little straggler. That's probably one that I'll cut it now. There we go. You want some because you want it to look wild, but right, I'm going to press on, get the rest done. When they're dry, give them a blast of varnish, and then I can bring you back to wrap this one up. Right, so here's the finished bocage. On the whole, I'm pretty pleased with it. I'm happy with the mud and rock effect down at the bottom. I like the way that, having done the bush in sections, it looks irregular in its shape and size. And with the trees standing proud, it just gives it that more, realistic, wild feel that I imagine bocage to be. I mean, once you introduce the soldiers, you start to see the scale of it, and to me, it looks right. It could be bigger. I know it could, because I know tanks couldn't get over it, but I think on a bolt action table that'd probably look a little bit too much. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you found something interesting that you could perhaps try. And if you have liked it, please consider giving me a thumbs up. Or maybe subscribe and click that bell so you get a notification when the next one drops. Anyway, I'll see you for now. Bye.